Dan Larson here at the Photobooth. Today, in celebration of Halloween season, I'm going to be taking a look at producer Greg's top 10 horror movies. 2 important things to know to fully appreciate this list. Number 1, Greg is a huge fan of movies in general, but horror movies in particular. 2, I like movies and enjoy fun adventure about superheroes, science fiction, action, and whatnot, but horror would absolutely be at the bottom of my list as far as genres go. I haven't seen even a tenth of the amount of movies that Greg has, and with respect to this list, I wouldn't be surprised if I have seen even 10% of that. So we're going to start. Greg has prepared delightful little Halloween-themed packages here of these films. He has provided me with the DVDs and Blu-rays for his top 10 favorites. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep these. Probably not. But we're going to start at number 10 here. I'm just going to open this up. I don't know which ones these are, so I'm going in cold. This is a film called What Keeps You Alive. It is about a demon inside, starring... Oh, it's a Colin Minihan film. I've heard that name before. I don't know anything about it. Hannah Emily Anderson, don't know who she is. Brittany Allen, don't know who she is. I'm going to assume... Independent Film Channel at midnight. I don't know anything about this movie. I've never heard of it. Let's see if there's a description on the back here. We've got, oh my God, there's so many words. Gorgeous gore and action-filled cat and mouse film. That's what Jason Zinneman of the New York Times had to say about it. How much do you really know about another person? I don't know. That's too much to read there. This is a swing and a miss for me. I'll be honest, just from the packaging art, it doesn't actually look like a horror film to me. Greg did provide me with some notes. So what he had to say was, this is number 10, What Keeps You Alive, 2018, a kind of cat and mouse movie, but the less you know going in, the better. Wonderfully shot, directed, and acted. A couple goes to a remote cabin to celebrate their anniversary. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. Number 9 is Revenge. Revenge, a film by Corley Fargeet. The Esquire had to say that this was the bloodiest and most important film released this year. I can't even tell you what year this is. Judging from the art, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's from the last 5 years. And that's all I know. So I'm going to see what we got here for box art description. Matilda Lutz is a easy there for the ages. HP things. Yeah, I don't know. This is new one to me. To me, it looks more like an action thriller. It does. I would not have guessed from this packaging that this was actually a horror film of any kind. It looks more like a Terminator. Possibly a Mad Max kind of thing, post-apocalyptic. I really don't know. So I'm gonna skip ahead here and see what Greg had to say about it. Greg said, Revenge from 2017. I was right. The last 5 years. A reverse slasher? Question. Ferocious, stylish, and bloody. Oh boy, is it bloody. So much blood. I don't know what a reverse slasher is. I mean, slasher is usually like the Jason or the Freddy going after all the other people. So I don't know if this is like all the people going after the Freddy or the Jason. I don't know if she's the Freddy or the Jason. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot about this one I don't know. Interesting. In the number 8 spot here is House. Okay, so here's the thing about House is I know that this film came out decades ago, and I think I saw one of these. There was a time early on in movie watching and stuff, before I was actually allowed to legally see R-rated movies. I definitely saw some late at night, HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, whatever, stuff you're not supposed to be watching at that age, but that's the age when you start watching, and I don't remember anything about it. You're cordially invited to spend an evening with Roger Cobb and his friends. Don't come alone. Horror's found a new home. I know I've seen it, and all I can remember is like some flashes of like maybe some light coming out some windows or something. I don't know. It was a spooky haunted house kind of thing. God, they have so many words on the back of these things. Enter at your own risk. Step into the house of horror. Teen the Party Friday the 3rd. William Catt. Okay, I know that name. because we met him. We met him a few years ago at Massive Con in Massachusetts. William Katt was there, and I know him as the featured actor in Greatest American Hero. And Greg was beside himself wanting to meet this guy. And at one point, we had a booth we were set up, and William Katt, came out of the bathroom. And he looked bored, not related to the bathroom stuff, but he looked bored. And I was like, I'm just going to start talking to this guy. And that way Greg can start a conversation with him. And everybody can cross off like a thing off their bucket list. Greg gets to meet William Katt. William Katt got to meet us. And everybody's happy. So I was like, hey, guy. And I started a little conversation with him. Greg got to ask him some questions about House 3. I know it was the sequel of this or whatever, and just trying to find out, was it like the same character? How was that production and whatever? That's all I know about House, is that time we met William Katt coming out of the bathroom at Massive Con. Greg says, House 1985. See, I knew it was decades ago. Probably the most family-friendly entry on the list. Roger Cobb inherits a haunted house. William Katt is a treasure. All right, very good. The 7 spot goes to It. All right, this is the new It, not the newest It, but the new It. 3 years old, 2 years old. They turn movies around like 2 years at a time now. So I know. Here's my It story. I saw the original It, the Tim Curry version. I don't remember anything about it. Only the. It's like when you see pictures from a photo album that you don't really actually remember anything about the things you're seeing in that picture. What you're really remembering is that picture. Maybe that's not relevant to the kids of today who've got like 9,000 pictures taken of them by their parents before they're like 10 years old. But back in my day, it was like 6 pictures from a year, and those sort of like colored your memories. But I think I remember more about it, the Tim Curry version, from pictures and stuff that I've seen since then, since I having actually watched it. I do also know that I read the book at some point, except that I didn't really read the book. We were supposed to do a book report thing, whatever, in like 7th grade or something. And the project was like, you're gonna make a poster you're gonna promote the book out of a poster. And I just basically ended up redrawing the cover with like, it's the clawed hand like coming out of the sewer, and like I just basically expanded the sewer. Like I drew lines further and put like other silly things in the picture, and I probably got like a C, and I shouldn't have, and whatever. I don't really read books; it's not my fault. This says Peter Travers of Rolling Stone says it will creep you out big time. I don't know. I've seen the NECA toys. That's really the extent of it. It's a clown monster. I don't really know anything else about it beyond that. Greg says, It Chapter 1, 2017, nostalgic and creepy, well shot, well acted. Bill Skarsgård is as fantastic as Pennywise for a big budget mainstream film. They sure did take some chances. Interesting approach. It's a remake, and I know that Hollywood is absolutely flush with too many remakes right now. So it's interesting that Greg, who I know has some opinions about Hollywood and the stuff they're making, would rank this even this high, number 7, a remake of a classic horror film. I know Evil Dead's been remade. I know Friday the 13th's been remade. I know Nightmare on Elm Street's been remade. So I'm surprised. I'm happy for Greg that this not only got remade, but it got remade into a film that he considers the number 7 favorite of his. Before we get to number 6, I want to do a little scorekeeping here, because I'm sure if there's any game here for Greg, it's what he thinks I have seen versus what he thinks I haven't seen. So I'm going to put movies I haven't seen over here, movies I have seen over here. I'm counting House because I know I saw it at some point, even though I can't tell you even one thing about it. I think it still counts. Revenge is over here, and I had to look up the title again because I couldn't remember what the title of the movie actually was, but What Keeps You Alive is over here. So on with number 6 here. Number 6 is, all right, Evil Dead. I've definitely seen this movie. Oh, Evil Dead 2, and oh, hey, look, I didn't even know. Hey, all right. I will say this. It's got not so much to do about the movie, but I don't think this figure looks anything like Bruce Campbell. I think it looks more like Paul Rudd, which is kind of disappointing. Still a cool figure. I don't want to get distracted. I don't want to get sidetracked. This is about movies. We talk enough about toys here, and the focus is on this. This is I was going to say this is a steelbook, but it's not. It's just shiny. It's a foil case here. So Evil Dead 2, I've seen it. I do enjoy it. I've come to appreciate it. I had friends of mine in high school were all over this. The original, Army of Darkness came out when we were in high school. If that's dating me, so what? So, my friends were really into it. I didn't see the whole movie until just a few years ago. Before we started Toy Galaxy, I had seen it. There was a time there at some point where I didn't have cable or whatever, and I was like, hey, Greg, let me borrow a bunch of movies. And at some point I wanted to watch the original Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. I wanted to get up on the whole thing. Like I said, my friends in high school, they were always quoting it and talking about it and making references. And I was like, ha ha ha, I've heard of that movie, but I never watched it. So this is definitely going in the I've seen it pile. And like I said, I've grown to appreciate the movie, despite. So here's my thing with horror is I'm not a big fan of like blood and guts and gore and stuff. The older horror movies are different because the technology was different. The special effects technology was not as advanced. It might have seemed that way at the time, but looking back on it now, it's very clearly, it's moved into the range of camp and just fun filmmaking. And that's what I see when with a movie like this, that's what I get to see is the fun. It looks like they had so much fun making this movie, and the effects, you can break them down. Now it's like, I don't like modern horror stuff because it's so realistic. I'm like, I don't really need to know what it looks like when a dude gets his head cut off or guts spilled everywhere or something. Like, even in the context of a film, and I know it's effects and whatever, I still don't like, that's not what I find fun about watching movies. But anyway, this is a win for me. I'm going to put it over here. And two out of 4, 5 so far. I can't count either. I'm considering this a pretty big win for me so far, but we'll see what the next couple have to offer. Oh, geez, before I get to number 5, I got to read here what Greg said about number 6. Number 6, Evil Dead 2, 1987. For me, Greg, Sam Raimi's masterpiece. Bruce Campbell is perfect. Pseudo-sequel to The Evil Dead has Ash battling demons in a remote cabin. There we go. All right, number 5. Bad taste. This box is like heavy. Bad taste from the director of Lord of the Rings. Ooh, it's lenticular and it moves. Is this bad taste? Okay, I wasn't sure if he was giving me a 2 or a peace sign there, victory on the front. I haven't seen this whole movie. I have seen parts of this movie in college. We were actually in class one day, and I don't remember if the professor wasn't there or something, but it was like an art class, and there was a VCR and one of the VCR. And one of the other students was like, oh, hey, I'm going to throw a movie in. And like, he just happened to have it like in his bag for some reason. And he put this movie in, and I was like, well, there's a thing that I don't. When did this come out? Yeah. Where's the year? Oh, it's probably on Greg's notes. Yeah, there was, I don't even want to describe it, like a dinner scene and a baby zombie, and I think there was a lawnmower involved. I don't know. I've tried to block out most of it. I'm just going to cut right to Greg's notes here because I don't even know if I could show the back of this packaging. Greg says, bad taste 1987. Seeing this for the first time in 1987 was a heck of a thing, Greg. The passion and ingenuity that went into making this is staggering. The practical effects are incredible and disgusting, and that's the truth. And I put that in the not seen pile because I know that I've only seen parts of it. House, I definitely saw the whole thing at some point. I just can't remember it. That's different from knowing I only saw parts of it, so I can't count that as a seen it for me. Number 4 is The Reanimator. I guess it's just called Reanimator, not The Reanimator. This is pretty cool box art too, by the way. I saw this like 2 years ago when Greg was finally like, hey, you're going to watch this movie. And we went over and we watched it. And I was like, hey, now I can say I've seen that movie. Not one of my favorites. Even if we're going to talk about like spooky, scary monster movies and Halloween stuff and whatever, still not one of my favorites. But I know it's Greg's number 4 favorite. it's the plot is, he has the syringes and the magic juice and stuff, and it brings the dead people back to life. And there's the one guy who gets his head cut off, and then there's a cat, and there's some naked people and stuff, and then monsters at the end, and it's a whole thing of stuff, and it's based on H.P. Lovecraft thing, which I haven't read any of. So hey, sorry about that, all you fans of the Lovecraft. Greg's notes. Number 4, Reanimator 1985. I'm sure most of you thought this would be number 1. He's talking to you guys. And I'll be honest, I'm in there too. I probably would have, if I had to guess, I probably would have said this would be at number 1. Seen it too many times to count. I love it so much, just not the most. Jeffrey Combs says, Herbert West creates a serum that brings the dead back to life, and then all heck breaks loose. He didn't use heck. I'm using heck. But that's Reanimator, and that's another win for me. I don't know if the mic's picking up some noise in the background here. It's just my cats running around being jerks. They were like being super quiet until I started filming, and then they're like, hey, let's do stuff. All right, this is Evil Dead. I'm going to assume this is the remake based on the box art and stuff. Oh, yeah, and this sentence here where it says, from the producers of the original classic. I've seen the original classic. I have not seen the remake. Just what was in the Red Band trailer when this movie came out was enough for me. It definitely hit that chord, that tone that I was speaking about earlier, where I talk about not needing to see what it actually looks like when, like somebody's tongue gets cut in half with a razor blade or something. Like, I think that was in the trailer. I'm pretty sure I remember being traumatized by that. This set has includes the theatrical and the unrated versions of the film. Unrated, by the way, doesn't mean that it's like for TV. It's the opposite. It's the version that if you don't like the regular rated version, you don't want to watch the unrated version. Perry Nemiar of Shakya.com said this will absolutely blow you away. It blew me so far away that I didn't even make it to the theater to watch it. Greg said, Evil Dead 2013, what a beautiful movie. What a ride. Revenge, the movie that was in the 9 spot, has a lot of blood. This has more. A lot more. It's gooey, it's gross, it's brutal. Kind of a remake of The Evil Dead, but with a whole moist bucket full of its own surprises. I want more Jane Levy as Mia. So, there you go. And as far as, scorekeeping, obviously I have not seen that one, so we're going to put that over there. All right, so at number 2, we have Scream. This is a shocking surprise to me. I am very, 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 very surprised that this made number 2. I have seen Scream. It's not the kind of movie that I hear Greg talk about a lot. And to me, it doesn't hit that same note of like gore and puddles of blood and, really effects driven. It is more a unconventional sort of horror movie that, plays with your expectations and subverts the genre a bit, if I can say that without sounding too film reviewy and pretentious. It is Wes Craven, obviously a big name in horror, and if someone was going to be able to manipulate some of the established, notes of the genre, it's going to be that guy. Washington Post called it a clever thriller. Los Angeles Times said sensational, terrific entertainment. I have only seen it once, and I'll be honest, I probably confuse it in my head with I Know What You Did Last Summer. So maybe that's Greg's number 1. I don't know anymore. Evil Dead and Reanimator were already on the list, so who knows what it is. Number 2, 1996, Scream. When I got near the top, the question in my head was, quote, what movies do I enjoy watching the most? I could watch Scream every week and probably never get tired of it. I love slashers. I love surprises. The setup and payoff are perfectly executed. Bam, 4. This could end up being a tie, which is the most shocking thing of this entire video. Number 1 is, oh shoot, The Return of the Living Dead. I have absolutely seen this. And so I know that there was Night of the Living Dead, and then there was Return of the Living Dead, this movie, and then there was like Return of the Living Dead Part 2 and all that other stuff. This movie I saw when I was too young to see it, and it was an unsupervised viewing of this film. And because of that, I have been traumatized by it ever since. And this packaging artwork is hilariously, I'm sure Greg probably has more than one copy of this, and he was like, I'm going to put the Tarman version right on the top in the front, because Dan's always talked about how much he thinks that guy is spooky and creepy and weird, even though he knows it's a practical effect. This movie, like from the opening credits to the end of the movie, has just, everything about it. This lady with her weird twiggling spine thing, the way this guy moves in his eyeballs and his teeth and his gooiness, and this lady dancing in the graveyard, and this guy turning into a zombie, just all of the stuff, everything about it at the time. I was way too young. It was actually my older brother, who's 2 years older than me, was having some friends over for like a Halloween sleepover thing, and it was like, we're going to watch 2 scary movies tonight. And I was like, cool, I've never seen scary movies before. This is going to be cool, hanging out with the big kids, watching the scary movies. And it was this movie, and I was like 10, so this movie came out in 1985, and so we probably saw it in so if it was on cable, it was probably like 86, 87, so I was like 10, 12 years old, somewhere around there, just too young to be able to really get what was going on, and that was like, you know what, hey, I don't ever actually want to be an adult, and I don't want to like these things, and I don't want to watch these things, and I'm gonna be thinking about this for a really long time, and here we are. It's several years later, and I pulled up some clips of this recently, and watched some of the Tarman stuff and just whatever, and it still gives me that weird, like, in my stomach, hair stand, like, creepy feeling when this guy pops up and moves, and the way when he talks, it's just like, it still messes me up. Greg says, Return of the Living Dead, 1985, and there it is. In recent years, no movie brings me more joy than this one. We watched it this year for Halloween after I had watched the 2-hour making of documentary a few days before, and after I had just watched the whole movie a few weeks before. I never get tired of it. And so obviously he doesn't share the same kind of trauma I have from it. Maybe a bunch more viewings. Maybe if I watched it a ton more on a daily basis, maybe it would normalize and I would get used to it. But this, for me, I consider this a win. Greg's top 10 horror movies, and I have seen 50% of them. In your face, I'm a winner. So thank you all for watching this video. Thanks for watching this and all of our videos. Hopefully you've seen some of these movies. Make sure you're of age if you decide to check them out. Hit like, hit subscribe, check out our Patreon if you're in the position to help the channel grow. Thank you. Later.